All right. Welcome back to the Know Your Numbers REI podcast. This is your host, Chris McCormack, CPA and certified tax planner with Better Books Accounting, the firm that I founded about 3 years ago when I discovered that there were a lot of real estate investors and business owners who were frustrated about their tax situation. They knew the importance of having a qualified CPA and tax planning in their portfolio, in their Rolodex, but they were not taking action on that, right? We read in our books by Robert Kiyosaki about the importance of having a CPA, or on Bigger Pockets and hearing of the importance of having a CPA, but so many people are struggling to find the right CPA. And so it's our goal to be that for you. I've worked at PwC in Boston, one of the biggest companies in the world and one of the biggest offices in the world. And I saw what the big companies were doing, and I made it a commitment to bring it to the everyday American citizen, because it's not that hard, it's not that complex, but it does require planning. It does require working with a professional. And so that's what we're doing at Better Books. Today's episode is going to be about entity structure and some of the things that you should be aware of when it comes to entity structure, entity status as a business owner, but specifically as a real estate investor. Our goal is to equip real estate investors with confidence in their decisions. And we know that many real estate investors lack confidence, or they're making decisions without the right information. And so we are looking to reverse that through education and information. So before we get into it, if you get any sort of value out of this, we would be so grateful for you to leave us with a rating and review of 5 stars, or sharing it with a friend. And if you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube platform, go ahead and check us out. We're posting daily on our YouTube page with video content and information and education that can help you in this journey to confidence. So with all that in mind, we're going to be tackling the idea of LLCs and what the right way to set up your LLC is when you're getting started. This deals specifically with people who are in partnerships, and more specifically partnerships with their significant other, right? We know that many real estate investors get into this with their spouse, which is awesome. I am fully supportive of husband and wife business owners. I am one myself. My wife and I are running this business together. And as we welcome a child into this world, I can only imagine what is going to come when we have little ones running around, and how they're going to play into the success of this business. But the point being, I, again, fully support husband and wife business owners, but I also know that there is a lack of advice or just bad advice out there about what you need to do from a business structure perspective, whether you need to be an LLC or an S corporation, a C corporation, a partnership. There's so many options out there. And honestly, I see a lot of people making the wrong decision, whether that's going into an S corporation, whether that's going into a partnership when a single member LLC would be just fine, whether that's going into a C corporation, paying taxes at the corporate level. It is a brutal truth that most people make the wrong decision when it comes to entity status. So today we're really going to be talking about partnerships versus single member LLCs for husband and wife partnerships, because we know that there are a lot of you out there who are doing this with your spouse and doing it as a team. And honestly, this can have costly consequences or cost-saving consequences, and we want to put you on the latter part of that. So let's get into it. Real estate in an LLC is critical, right? I am not a lawyer. I don't pretend to be a lawyer. I'm a tax planner and a CPA, but I still know that there is a great benefit to holding real estate in an LLC, right? LLC, limited liability company. What does that do? It limits your liability, right? So when you have a real estate property and you hold it in an LLC and somebody slips and falls at your property, we're here in Minnesota, there is ice on the ground when winter hits, and it only takes one misstep for somebody to slip and fall at your property and for a lawsuit to open up. What's the difference between a lawsuit against an LLC and a lawsuit against an owner? As far as I know, it is the liability risk that you have when it's in a limited liability company. What do you think about that liability? Do you think it's limited? Yes, of course it's limited. That's the name of the entity. And when it's not in an LLC, you open yourself up to some unnecessary risk that allows your personal assets to be potentially taken or seized or held as collateral. And again, I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice, but I do know that there is a benefit to a liability holding properties in an LLC and allowing that to limit your liability from a business perspective. On top of that, when you get an LLC, you automatically get an EIN number, right? You file your paperwork, you get the EIN number with the IRS, and that's their way of tracking everything that you do. It is essentially a social security number for your business. But what can you do with an EIN number? You can open bank accounts. And so when you get an LLC, you not only protect yourself against unnecessary risk, but you also get an EIN number. And an EIN number gives you the ability to set up a business bank account. This is accounting 101. We need to separate business and personal. And the only way to do that is through setting up a business bank account. Now, there's ways to do it when you don't have an LLC. You can open up another personal bank account. But again, it goes back to that liability perspective and having things in the business name. So we want an EIN. We want to separate business and personal. We want to have running records and bookkeeping for your business because one, you're able to see the profitability. Two, you're protecting yourself against unnecessary audit risk too, as well. You can see that there's a lot of risk involved in all of this, and we want to do whatever we can to limit it, right? Where there's no way to completely get rid of risk. We live in a broken world where things go wrong and you're going to lose money or you're going to open yourself up to some headaches. That is inherent risk, but there are things we can do that can lower the risk. And one of those things is to get an LLC. And another thing is to separate business and personal, because the IRS comes and looks at your books and they say, wait, this is your personal bank account. I see personal transactions going through this, but I also see income coming in that isn't on your tax return. We're going to tax you on the income and none of these deductions are allowed because you're mixing business and personal. That happens. We want to set ourselves up for success, and it starts by having separate business and personal bank accounts, and that starts by having an LLC with an EIN. And the last piece of an LLC that I think is an overlooked piece is the fact that having an LLC gives you more clout. It is a way for you to develop yourself as an investor. Rather than saying, yeah, I own my investments personally, you can say, no, my investments are in my Property Prosperity LLC, and we are searching for new investments every single day, and we're also looking to get new investors every single day. Now, there's regulations that you need to be aware of when you go out and invest your money, but having an LLC, having a website, having a true business gives you more clout when it comes to operating a business, right? People want to see that you're actually serious about what you do. People want to see that you have something to your name, and they do that by asking you, what's your business? Do you have an email that's your personal Gmail account, or do you have an email tied to your business, right? That's a huge part. Like if I remember when I was first getting started, I did not have a business website. I did not have an email tied to my business. But as soon as I got that business website, as soon as I got an email tied to my business, it felt more real. It felt more professional. And it is. That's not just my feeling. That's somebody else's feeling as well. Usually if I see somebody's email at AOL.com, at gmail.com, at yahoo.com, it tells me that there's something that they need to, one, set up a business and set it up properly, and two, start to advertise and market. And again, these are tax deductible expenses that you can have as a business owner when you have an LLC, when you have an EIN, and when you start making money. So we know that we want an LLC to limit liability. We know that we want an LLC to get an EIN, separate business and personal. We know that when you have an LLC, it changes something. It changes your mindset. You're no longer just somebody looking for properties on the side. You're a business owner. And we need to run this as a business. Yes, on the accounting side, and setting up business bank accounts and setting up business statements, financial statements, profit and loss, balance sheet, cash flow statement. But we also need to run it as a business and tell everyone we know and start advertising and looking at properties and acquiring properties and selling properties and leasing properties. We need to do all of that. And we do it by changing our mind to, now I have an LLC. Now I'm a business owner. Let's go out and make some deals. Okay. So there's a benefit to an LLC. But now the question is, as a husband and wife business owner, do I create it so it's a single member LLC or a partnership, right? And this is where people get wrong because we're husband and wife. And I know that there's something about having each of you have a specifically stated ownership in your business. But this is also under the assumption that you guys are going to fight tooth and nail to remain together, right? Because a lot of the reason that people want to get their ownership percentage and make sure that they're on the business documents, and regardless of the amount of transactions, if you have the same amount of properties with the same amount of financial records, and one has a partnership and the other is just on the personal. There's a partnership, I have to file partnership and personal. That's more work for the accountant, and it's going to be more money. When it's just personal, it's just personal. And so it's going to be less money. So that's number one, is there's less returns when you have a single member LLC. I touched upon number two as well, which is the deadlines, right? So many people wait until the very last minute to get their information compiled and make sure that it's sent over to the accountant. Well, you have to hurry that along when you have a partnership. You have a March 15th deadline compared to an April 15th deadline. So you do have a longer time period to deal with when you're not a partnership and when you're just a single member LLC, which is something to consider, right? And I don't advocate for procrastination by any means, but just know that there's less stress involved with filing on April 15th compared to March 15th, because April 15th is later. And it's also, there's less likelihood of a mistake being made, and mistakes happen all the time. Missed opportunities happen all the time. If your accountant is overworked and they are just trying to get everything done no matter what, and just trying to hustle through it and get it done before March 15th, well, what are the chances of a mistake? they're great. There's a large chance of a mistake being made, a much larger chance, especially when it comes to all of the reporting that's required when it's a partnership. So the point of this is to, one, give you an idea of the necessity of an LLC, but then two, give you some clarity as to whether you should be a partnership or a single member LLC. And when it comes to single member LLCs, you have one return, you have a longer or later tax deadline, and they're less expensive. A personal return is going to be less expensive than a business return, than a partnership return. And they have the same tax treatment, right? You're not taxed at the partnership level, you're taxed at the personal level when you have a partnership. So a partnership won't offer any form of tax benefits. It largely just offers more headaches. And so barring any unique circumstances, if there's a husband and wife partnership, which I know there's a lot out there, and I love it. Again, I'm in business with my wife. I think it's one of the best things you can possibly do. It brings the family into it, and you're more considerate of the impact that things have on your family than you would be if it's just you and a business partner or you by yourself. I do believe in that. So now the question is, how should we set up our entities? And more often than not, a single member LLC will do, because you guys are one in the eyes of the law. You guys are one. You're taxed together. Your income is her income. Her income is your income. And so we need to consider these when we think about what entity structure is best. Now, this doesn't get into corporate tax, C Corp, S Corp. We've done previous episodes on that. If you're looking for that, please go ahead and just search entity structure wherever you get podcasts. And there's a whole host of educational resources on our podcast or YouTube channel. But it does cover the need for an LLC. Again, we need it to limit our liability, to have separate business and personal accounts, and to just give us more confidence and motivation and inspiration in this endeavor. You can get beat up a lot, and we want to limit that as much as we do the overpayments on tax. So I trust this was helpful. I wish you nothing but the best. Until next time, if you have any questions, reach out to me on Facebook and Instagram or LinkedIn. Join our Facebook group. We'd love to see you there. We're posting regularly on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. And if you haven't yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and give us a 5-star rating and review. God bless you, and keep moving forward.